Finally, we'll talk about rollovers and conversions. So a rollover is where you take money from one type of plan, whether it's pre-tax or post-tax. So you take money from any type of pre-tax plan to another type of pre-tax plan. That's a rollover. If you take money from a post-tax plan to another post-tax plan, that's a rollover. And a rollover can go back and forth between employer-sponsored or individual plans. So some employers' 401ks will allow you to roll over your IRA into that 401k. When you leave your job and close out your 401k, you can roll that over into your IRA. You can roll over an IRA into another IRA or a 401k into another 401k. But it's a rollover because they're both pre-tax. It's pre-tax before, pre-tax after, or post-tax before, post-tax after. You'll still get a 1099-R, but you'll end up with 0 taxable distributions, and you'll get a code G, which is a rollover. That is assuming you do a direct rollover. It's called a direct rollover, where if you go into a new job, they say, you sign up for the 401k, you say, oh, I've got this old 401k, I'd like you to just roll it over. They'll take care of it for you, as long as you give them the instructions to. And as long as it goes directly from the old trustee or custodian to the new trustee or custodian and doesn't pass through your hands and go into your bank account, and then you have to take it back out of your bank account. It's called a trustee to trustee transfer, and you'll get this 1099-G with 0 taxable amount. And there's really no problems with that. Another thing that could happen, and if you take the money directly yourself, like you say, you quit your job and your employer says, well, what about the $50,000 in your 401k? And you say, well, just send me a check. I don't know, I'll figure it out. First of all, if it's rollover eligible, which it normally would be, there's a mandatory 20% income tax withholding. So they're not going to send you a check for $50,000. They're going to send you a check for $40,000. Where does the other $10,000 go? That goes to the IRS. And you can get that money back. You have to file a tax return. So you have to wait until next year to get that money back. If you want to take that money, that $50,000, and roll it over into a new 401k or a new IRA, then you have to come up with the missing $10,000 yourself. Or you could put the whole check into your new IRA, new 401k, but you have an incomplete rollover. You haven't rolled over the whole $40,000 or the whole $50,000. The extra $10,000 is sitting at the IRS. So indirect rollovers are usually bad news or improper way to do it. It's always better to just do direct trustee to trustee. And also, this 60-day limit is strict. So if you leave your job and they say, you've got this $50,000 in your 401k, what do you want to do with it? And you say, well, send me a check and I'll figure out what to do with it later. And then you forget about it for a month or two. And you go, oh yeah, I was supposed to put that into my new 401k, and 61 days later, you fail. Now the whole $50,000 is taxable income, and not only that, you just put $50,000 or $40,000 into a 401k, and what's the 401k contribution limit? $22,500. So you made over contribution to your 401k. So now it's a nightmare on both ends. So it's just better, don't do an indirect rollover. You're only allowed one indirect rollover per 12-month, and that's a rolling window 12-month period. So if you do an indirect rollover today, can't do another indirect rollover until September 26, 2025. And that's to prevent the abuse. Like you can do a rollover from an IRA back into the same IRA, which means you're basically taking a 60-day loan against your IRA. I can take $10,000 out of my IRA, As long as I put it back, the whole 10,000 back within 60 days, that's a rollover. But not allowed to keep doing that over and over. So that's to prevent that type of abuse. That one per year only applies to indirect rollovers. The other type of taking retirement money and moving it to another plan is called a conversion. And that is where you're taking, so a rollover is pre-tax to pre-tax or post-tax to post-tax. A conversion is where you're going from pre-tax to post-tax. So if you've already paid, if your pre-tax money, that's money you haven't paid taxes on yet, and you move it to post-tax money, that's money you've already paid taxes on, well, you're going to have to pay tax on that conversion. So if I have $10,000 in a traditional IRA, which I haven't paid taxes on, but I want to make it a Roth IRA, I have to pay tax on the $10,000 as I convert it. And that is, but then it's going to be in my Roth, and I don't have to worry about paying taxes on it ever again. We'll see code 2 on someone's 1099-R when they do that. And this is actually a good idea to do if you're in an unusually low income situation. Maybe you've been making $100,000 at your job, but you just got laid off and you're gonna be between jobs for a few months. So maybe this year you're only making $10,000. So this might be a good time to take your 401k and convert it because you're in a lower tax bracket. If you inherit an IRA, so someone dies, they name you as the beneficiary, you've inherited an IRA. And normally the rules are, like, the standard rules for inheritances are that inheritances aren't taxed. But it's not the case with the IRA. The IRA, that money has never been taxed, so it's still going to be taxed when it comes up. So the more careful way of reading that rule is inheritances are not taxed unless they would have been income if they had been given to the person before they died. So if that money would come out of the IRA to the person who died, it would have been income to them. So if it goes to you instead, it's income to you. So a traditional IRA is taxable even if you inherit it. And there are a couple of rules here because you can't just keep it there forever. If you are the surviving spouse, so if it's your spouse that died and left you their IRA, you can actually treat that as your own IRA. You can roll that over into your own IRA. You can put it into your employer's 401k. You can do anything with that money that you would have done if it were your own IRA. But only the surviving spouse can do that. Anybody else must withdraw all the assets within 10 years of inheriting that IRA. And you can do that even amounts every year. So if I inherit my dad's $1 million IRA, I don't know if it's really $1 million. Let's say I inherit $1 million IRA from my dad, I can take $1 million out tomorrow, or I can wait 10 years and take $1 million out in 10 years. Those are probably not the best, going to have the best results for me because suddenly my income will be $1 million and I'll be in the top tax bracket. Or if I want to optimize my results, I'll probably want to take $10,000 a year out for 10 years. So you have that option. Or I could just leave it in and try to take as little out as I can. But it has to be empty within 10 years.
Why?
Because that
Max control.
Yes. Well, that changed with the Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017. So, but the concept is that money is set aside for someone's retirement. Well, now they're dead; they don't need it for retirement anymore. So basically, the idea is we put off paying taxes on this money long enough. It's time to start taking out paying taxes on it.
That way they can keep building it up and
right,
transferring it for generations and not pay taxes.
Right. Yeah, before 2018, you were allowed to um, stretch it out for the remainder of your life. So instead of so if I inherited my dad's $1 million IRA and I had 50 years of my remaining life expectancy, I could take it $1 million, 20,000 a year for the next 50 years. Or if I die, I can leave it to the next person in line. They could do a small amount every year. So
that was to get the wealthy people to
yeah,
pass on their inherited IRAs.
Yeah, that's called it used to be called a stretch IRA. And yeah, especially wealthier individuals would leave their IRAs not to their kids, but to their grandkids or great grandkids in order to avoid paying taxes way off in the future.
And then the grandkids get it, they've got enough money, they don't need it, they leave it to their grandkids.
Yeah.
Then there's generational wealth that's not being taxed.
The IRAs is just sitting over their minds and not getting their care.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So the new rules starting in 2020 are it has to be done within 10 years. With the exception of if you're a minor and you're left an IRA by your parents, that 10-year period in that case doesn't start until you turn 18. So you have until age 28 to withdraw it. If you're disabled or chronically ill, then you actually are allowed to stretch it out for the rest of your life. Or if you're basically the same age as the person who left you that IRA, you can use your own life expectancy instead of having that 10-year hard limit.